Hello, everyone. Welcome to Feedstuffs 365. I'm Sarah Muirhead. We have another special weather report here coming up with Greg Soulje. There is a storm, Greg, I hear coming across the south this time, and kind of that time frame is the ninth and 10th. That's gonna you'll fill us in, I'm sure. But
Yes.
something else the folks in cattle country and in that part of the country need to pay attention to. So I'm going to turn it over to you and let you walk us through that, please.
All right, sir. Nice to be with you and one and all. Yeah, kind of a update on some of the headlines already beginning to come out of Texas and the southern states over the next several days. Winter storm here expected between Thursday the 9th and the 10th, and probably clearing out of the southeastern states towards the 11th. So we'll take a look at some of the maps and charts around here, and really some of the headlines that are coming out there. Anytime we talk about winter storms and snow and ice potential in the Midwest, you make a run to the grocery store. It's even more so when you're talking about places of northern and northeastern Texas, Oklahoma, Arkansas, and throughout the deep south and southeastern sections of the country. Of course, last week it was the southern Corn Belt, the Great Plains, anywhere between 10 and 20 inches of snow in some of those heavier snow-packed areas of winter wheat country, which are just that right now in the southern Corn Belt too. But the winter storm watches and warnings are up from roughly Dallas, Fort Worth, to Little Rock, to Nashville, to Chattanooga. So this winter storm unfolds across the southern states between Thursday, Friday, winds out of the southeast on Saturday. There will be significant and even an inch of snow in some of that cattle and really poultry country. That's a big poultry area too, into the Delta, the Tennessee Valley, Mid-South. Anytime you talk about any degree of the snow and ice, things go up for grabs, and there will be significant accumulations of both heavy wet packing snow and ice. And we'll try to roughly lay it out for you here over the next couple of days. Again, for northern and northeastern Texas, the Tennessee Valley, southern Appalachians, that would take into the Carolinas, northern Georgia, northern Mississippi, northern Alabama. Those folks, and just a couple of days ago, I believe we had reports of even a couple of snowflakes already as far south as Birmingham, Alabama. 1 to 3 inches of rainfall expected, probably somewhere in that I-10, I-20 corridor that runs from eastern Texas to Georgia on southward. And we'll keep an eye on probably the immediate Gulf Coast. Places like New Orleans, they don't need any more problems, but maybe some severe weather there along the Gulf Coast and in through northern Florida between Friday afternoon and the evening time. So you have the snow and you have the ice. And as a footnote to this, so we've already been hearing headlines, California, I believe, is the number one dairy producing state of the country. So there's at least a cattle and livestock element there. Not exactly sure where that would play out through the Imperial Valley, Southern California, east of Los Angeles. Big fires there. And anytime you get this set up where there's high pressure through St. Lawrence at the Salt Lake City area, and a deep low coming out of western Texas, Old Mexico, the Rio Grande, Baja California. It's a big old hole in the atmosphere. The winds rush in. They turn northeast and east, and they come down the Santa Ana ranges east of Los Angeles, and that's why these fires are already lighting up. And it will be a concern that goes well into next week. There's really no pattern shift in the southwestern states until sometime mid to late next week. And there is the initial stages here through the midday and afternoon hours of today, Wednesday. You can see kind of a benign weak low there through northwestern Mexico off of Baja California, and the high over Salt Lake City. So again, you get that clockwise flow that runs into Southern California. So a little snow and rain already breaking out in the desert Southwest and through New Mexico, and an area of the country that has been sort of missed out on these La Nina storms. Northern California, the usual wet weather pattern for the Pacific Northwest. The Southwest and Southern California, I think, will be a growing concern because of dryness and drought as we get deeper on into winter and spring. But back to the matters at hand, all quiet for preparations over the southern plains of Oklahoma, Texas, lower Mississippi Valley, and points on east here Wednesday afternoon. By tonight, the snows continue to break out. They're already doing so a little bit south and west of about Lubbock. They'll pick up there into areas of the Rio Grande Valley. So those winter storm watches and warnings and advisories certainly need to pay heed. Big jump in the precip by the time we get to tomorrow morning, Thursday morning. That orange hue and that purple hue is a significant amounts of freezing rain and sleet, icing, glazing, and just the slightest of a breeze. Well, you got to keep an eye on the power operations for those cattle operations into the southern plains areas of Oklahoma, northern Texas, and there'll be snow as well by tomorrow morning as far north as just about Oklahoma City and into the Panhandle. By the time we get to Thursday evening, look at the expanse of moisture across the southern and southeastern plains, lower Mississippi Valley. Actually, what's going on? We're going to kind of phase two jet stream patterns. One, the northern branch coming out of the Canadian Prairie. There's a low up aloft coming out of the Rio Grande. And so we begin moisture that wraps up, picks up, intensifies. Anytime we try to phase jet stream patterns, you get storm development. And at least we will have seen a transition to rain from Dallas-Fort Worth on southward, but ice and heavy ice and snow, Oklahoma City, Ozark Plateau again, Little Rock, west of Memphis. Then by the time we get to Friday morning, a heavy, wet blanket of snow, Little Rock, up through Memphis again, the Ohio River, then back southeast from there, maybe just outside of Nashville and Chattanooga to Atlanta. And that purple and pink area is heavy accumulations of ice and freezing rain and sleet. From about the Louisiana-Arkansas border through maybe Jackson, Mississippi, Birmingham, Alabama, and a little south of Atlanta, Georgia. Then by the time we get to Friday evening, just took a piece of the model data out. It seems to have a better fix on what we're looking at. And again, we've got to transition back over to rain, maybe severe weather into the Gulf Coast areas, but snow and ice bills back into Kentucky, Tennessee, the Carolinas, and northern Georgia, then out to sea by Saturday morning. There will be, Sarah, by the way, indications of probably some accumulating snow, an inch to maybe 3 inches as far north as maybe the southern Great Lakes region. Another round of maybe some 2 to 4 inch snows over that real heavy snowpack over central and southern Illinois, Indiana, and Ohio. And of course, a bunch of snow that came down, I believe 10 to 20 inches. And under that was all that glare ice. Still recovering from a rural travel and power standpoint. I believe yesterday there were still 75,000 customers without power into southeastern Kansas and southwestern Missouri, if I understood things correctly. So another busy day here in the weather office. The southern states, again, will have an updated look the next 4 weeks. And I think this is the story. The eastern half of the country, Mississippi Valley on eastward, will be a stormy rest of January into February, a little break once in a while. And then back in the northern Rockies and Pacific Northwest, active weather pattern where they have seen winter precip already. And again, that southwestern part of the country probably staying a little drier than they'd like to see. And they normally get their winter moisture this time of the year, but it may be lacking. So all that and more coming up with Mr. Pearson and yours truly on this weekend's edition of This Week in Agribusiness.
Right. And you can catch This Week in Agribusiness on RFD and a number of affiliated stations, as well as on beefmagazine.com, feedstuffs.com, and nationalhogfarmer.com, and farmprogress.com. So lots of places to find that and keep track of Greg. And then we've got him, of course, every month joining us. And now some weekly updates when there's things that are happening that we want you to know about. So we really appreciate you jumping in there, Greg. And yeah, we got to watch out for that ice. We got to watch out for the, the temperatures. And oh my gosh, California and those fires. That's just been... That's really something to see. Oh my gosh.
There'll be, by the way, more coal that goes into maybe the north end of South Texas citrus, probably north of Brownsville, maybe west of Houston and Galveston, and probably another frost and freeze. They've had recurring issues with that into parts of northern and central Florida. So, there's really been no escaping this in the southern states. And it's usually, you get the snow and the ice, but when you start losing power and you can't feed livestock and poultry and tend to that, and you can't get around, that's another whole world of hurt down there.
Yeah, I can't get around to get that feed delivered too. That can always be an issue. So plan ahead if you're in those areas. So Greg, appreciate your time, and hopefully it turns out to not be so significant for our listening folks here.
One flake of snow, one mention of ice, they make a run out and down there. But,
but there goes the milk and eggs.
Exactly. So hopefully everyone plays it safe down there, and we'll keep you posted right here.
Very good. Thank you, Greg. And thank you all for joining us as well.